Over the last few months, we've had a lot of questions from farmers about input costs. Brian and Darren, what can I do to cut input costs? Well, you know what? Those costs have come down without you even doing anything. Fertilizer prices are down, fungicide prices are down, insecticide prices are down, and the other really big piece of news is just here in the last couple of months, we've seen the HPPD prices continue to move down, especially products like Callisto.
All right, there's good news here. Prices are lower, so it's going to cost you less to kill the weeds on your farm this year, but the downside is this. Why are these products going off patent? Because it's been so long since we had a new product come on the market. Think about this. When is the last time we had a new chemical family come out? The HPPDs are the newest chemical family that we've got. Now they're starting to go off patent too. I think the HPPDs are a great chemical family, but not overusing them is going to be one of the big themes that you'll hear today. Hey, we can use these products, but just because they're cheap doesn't mean we want to overuse them.
All right, let's say that you haven't been using an HPPD product before. Now that the prices have come down so much, and I don't care if we're talking Callisto, generic Callisto, Loudus, whatever, all these prices have come way down. And by the way, if you say, well, wait a second, I bought back in December, the odds are pretty high you're price protected. I'd go back in and talk to your dealer right now and make sure you're getting the low price since everything came down here in the last couple of months. But anyway, if in the past you were spending $10 or $15 an acre, now you might only be spending $5 or $7 an acre, something like that, for a high rate or a good, strong rate of an HPPD product. If you haven't been using one of these things before, it probably is something you should look at incorporating into your program if you can. There certainly are some drawbacks though to the HPPDs, and the one that I can think of in particular is potential carryover. So with HPPDs, they have some soil residual. Rotating between corn and soybeans and for the most part wheat, not a real big problem. But there are some specialty products that you have to be careful with, and you're not going to be able to rotate to every crop that's out there. So I guess that's the first thing. Talk to your agronomist, take a look at the label, and make sure you're using these things when appropriate.
All right, if you haven't been using HPPDs, maybe it's not just price. Maybe there was something else, like for example, viney type weeds. I know in our area, field bindweed is one of those weeds that we just don't do a very good job on with the HPPDs. We strongly prefer status if we've got field bindweed out there or any of the viney type weeds. The HPPDs just aren't as good. They're great on some of the large seeded broadleaves. I love them on velvet leaf, for example. It's probably the best corn herbicide for velvet leaf. But there are some there are some weeds that the HPPDs are weak on. So again, talk to your agronomist. Don't just say, well, hey, they're cheap, I want to use them. Make sure it's the right choice for your weed spectrum.
Yep, and then the other big thing is just simply overuse. Like Darren had said earlier, we just get concerned about guys that are going to use an HPPD pre and then follow again post-emerge because, well, the HPPD is the cheapest option post. It might be, but there's a good chance you're going to develop resistance pretty quickly if you're using it time and time again. So if you want to use an HPPD pre, our advice is do not use it post. If you want to use one post, our advice is do not use one pre.
One other thing to keep in mind with HPPDs, the overuse may not just come from corn. When you look at wheat, for example, if you've got wheat in your rotation, if you're using Husky or Talinor, those have an HPPD component. Now they also have some Buctril in there, so it's not just HPPD, but it's something to keep in mind if you're using a lot of HPPDs repetitively, or in the future, if you're using balanced bean, for example, in soybeans, there's a new trait coming out where HPPDs can be utilized in soybeans as well. You may talk with your agronomist as these new things come to say, okay, where would be the best spot in my program and in my rotation to utilize HPPDs?
All right, so again, the reason why we're talking about this today is because in the last couple of months we've seen these prices come down dramatically. Callisto, I mean, it's half price of what it was just a couple of months ago. So that part's awesome, and we love the HPPDs. It's just this should be a part of your corn herbicide program, not the entire thing. So make sure you're mixing up modes of action, using things other than the HPPDs. But if you haven't been using an HPPD, you definitely can save some money in many cases by using this somewhere in your corn herbicide program.
Well, one time you will not be using HPPDs is trying to control our weed of the week. You'll need to pick something else. We'll show you what works best coming up later in the show.